Hello everyone, I'm James Longman on my Facebook page for ABC News, and I'm on board the Papal plane. This is Pope Francis's plane as he's preparing to fly to Bangladesh and Myanmar on a papal visit to meet some of those affected by the massive crisis that's going on there. I will just tell you what's happening there and why he's going in a minute, but I just wanted to show you what the plane was like, because I think most people might imagine that the Pope has his own plane. He doesn't. He actually has to use an Alitalia flight, but he charters it and he puts all the journalists like me on the back. So if you want to have a look there, just a regular plane. But the one thing he does do is we have the papal coat of arms. So that's a bit different. And the other thing is we all have to have kind of enormous amounts of accreditation. It's quite a big operation getting something like 70 journalists into a plane. You can see they've all got their cameras all set up there, because when we take off he's going to come round and say hello to all of us, so I'm going to meet him. It's alright, go ahead. And I'm just getting in the way here slightly, but you can see all the air stewardesses going about their business. I also wanted to show you the menu, because the menu's a bit different as well. You get a little papal menu like that, and then on it is the papal crest. And what we're going to eat is all very normal food that you would expect on a plane, but written on this rather fancy card. I think, like I said, I think probably many people might expect that the Pope has his own plane, but he doesn't. We all have to fly on a charter Alitalia flight. This lovely lady just going past me out. So, on to the trip. Why is he going? Well, the whole trip was arranged well before the crisis in Myanmar. It was arranged back in May when Aung San Suu Kyi, the Burmese leader, met with Pope Francis, and she invited him. They re-established a diplomatic relationship between the Vatican and Myanmar, and she invited him to come to visit. But then in August, this massive crackdown on the Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar began. The military in that country says that it's clearing an area, that it's fighting an insurgency, but international human rights groups, the United States, the United Nations, many others have condemned the Burmese military for an excessive use of force. We have heard reports of a humanitarian crisis. Basically 620,000 or so Rohingya Muslims have had to flee over into Bangladesh. There has been reports of mass shootings, systematic rape. Of course, rape is a very powerful weapon of war, and some rights groups are even saying that what is happening there amounts to ethnic cleansing. We've had reports of entire villages being burnt, beheadings. Some absolutely atrocious things have been going on. I mean, colleagues of mine in other news organisations and indeed at the BBC who've been say it's some of the worst they've ever seen in years and years of reporting. And it's so difficult for many people to get there, to even get to Myanmar to explain to the world what's actually going on. But the Burmese in Myanmar, they say that this has been blown out of proportion. They say that the whole thing has been basically been exploited by foreign powers, that actually, what's actually been going on in Myanmar is, they're trying to fight extremists and insurgents. They don't actually regard the Rohingya as a separate ethnic group. They regard them as Bengali, so kind of Bangladeshi migrants over into Myanmar. And so they reject this entire argument that they're somehow responsible for the ethnic cleansing of their country. So this is the environment into which Pope Francis is about to travel. He's about to arrive. We get into Yangon tomorrow morning, where he's going to be meeting with some of the leaders there, and on Tuesday he'll be meeting with Aung San Suu Kyi. She has come under huge criticism for not speaking out in defence of the Rohingya since all this began. She's in a very difficult position, of course, because it is a country basically dominated by the military, and her supporters would say, well, she's trying to fight for minority rights, but actually it's the military that are at fault, and they are the ones that international pressure needs to be on. But nevertheless, Pope Francis is going to arrive, and he is someone who, for a lot of people, has been especially proud of championing refugee rights, the rights of the downtrodden, people who are stateless, people who have experienced persecution. He's been very outspoken about Syria, for example, and the need for Europe to do more to take in Syrian refugees. Well, people are waiting to hear what he is going to say about this, because even the very word Rohingya is an inflammatory term inside Myanmar. They don't like it used. They believe that even if to use the term is somehow to take sides in the whole issue. So he's going to have a very, very difficult time balancing his role as a kind of a moral authority, but with also the kind of the diplomacy he's going to have to exercise in coming to Myanmar. He's also going to meet, and this was a late edition, I just want to show you more of the plane here, because there's quite a lot of us. We're all stuck on. There you go. No, you can go past. He's also going to be meeting with some of the military leaders, and particularly the general in charge of one of the most senior generals in charge of the Burmese military. That is going to be quite a crucial meeting, because a lot of people regard this general as being responsible for crimes against humanity. That's according to some rights groups as well. So he has got to have a bit of a tough time in his hands. I'm just going to slip through here, if I may, just past some colleagues of mine. That's from CNN.
Hello.
Dia, say hi.
Hello.
ABC News.
Oh, are you doing Facebook?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, welcome to all your Facebook people.
What are we expecting? Sorry to jump on you
No,
like this.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's certainly, as everybody's been saying, going to be a delicate diplomatic trip for him, but I think everybody's kind of looking forward to seeing what he can accomplish through it. And one aspect of it that I think is really interesting is this Christian Pope going to meet predominantly Buddhist leaders to talk about a Muslim minority group. And so there's this whole aspect of religions coming together, interreligious aspect, which we focus a lot on the political part of it, but of course he is a pope, and maybe that's one way to find a kind of solution.
He's going to broaden it out. It's going to be, because there's a lot more minorities than just the Rohingya in Myanmar, right?
Yes, and I mean, everybody's been so focused on the sort of political crisis there. The other point is that a lot of people in the Western world, of course, have criticized Aung San Suu Kyi, and the Myanmar military has been accused of ethnic cleansing by the US and the UN. But Pope Francis kind of goes as almost a neutral party in that, because his point is to try and sit down at the table. I mean, he's going to be meeting with the senior general there, and obviously doesn't want to offend the people of the country, but at the same time is going to try and, speak out for the rights of them. So I think he's got a fine line to walk, but actually, if anyone can do it, he probably can, because he's got this sort of moral authority to.
And I suppose he presents himself more as a servant than a savior, I suppose.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think that's why they accepted him coming, so that he's not coming to work out a political deal. I mean, they're not coming to negotiate anything. He's just coming to say, I'll listen to you, and here's what I think needs to happen, especially because we are talking anyway about a crisis situation for refugees. That's one of the top priorities for Francis. So, in that context. But I think the religious aspect will be really interesting, because he's going to meet with this Supreme Council of the Buddhists, the Sangha, and they're very influential. And it's a whole aspect of this story that we don't focus on so much, because we focus on just the political.
And they'll be shining a light on it. Yeah. Well, thanks so much.
Okay, you're welcome.
So as you heard there, it's going to be quite an interesting trip to see how Pope Francis deals with this diplomatically, but also as a spiritual leader, and to see in what way perhaps he can get all these different people around the table. These aren't people who have yet spoken really directly to any Western leader, so in that respect he can be kind of a diplomatic missionary. So with that, I'll probably leave you there. We are going to arrive in Yangon tomorrow morning, late afternoon, I think, US time, and then for a week of meetings and interesting events in both Myanmar and Bangladesh. And before I go, I just want to leave you with one final thing. When a pope flies anywhere, he sends out, as he crosses each country, a telegram, an actual telegram. And on this occasion, he'll be flying over Italy, Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina. He'll be flying over Georgia, Azerbaijan, and a few other countries. And he sends a little note, and it says, "As I travel over the country on my apostolic visit to Myanmar and Bangladesh, I extend best wishes to your Excellency and the people of the nation, with the assurance of my prayers that you may all be granted an abundance of divine blessings. So I thought it was quite nice when a Pope flies over a country, he sends down his blessings. I thought that was a rather nice thing to hear. As for us, the journalists on board, often they call this flight Shepherd 1, in the kind of vein of the American president being Air Force One. So from Shepherd 1, see you later.